Georgia football continues to add to the monster after the #1 ranked player in the 2024 class, quarterback Dylan Raiola, pledged to play for the Dogs yesterday. And while he is a big-time get, it seems that Georgia gets another star prep player every day. This is because Kirby Smart has built the best version of the Saban blueprint yet. Now, make no mistake, Kirby did not invent the machine, but he did find a way to build it even better than the guy who built the latest model before him in Nick Saban. Now, this isn't some obscure idea that worked or shot in the dark. This is a perfectly built structure that Kirby learned from Nick and took to a place that has more potential than any state in the country, in my opinion. Now, I'll get back to why that is in a second, but what people need to understand is just like every other invention throughout time, there's always a person who comes along and builds it even better. Take the TV, for example. The companies that produce the best televisions in the world right now didn't invent the TV, but they found a way to make it better. And that's exactly what Saban got from Belichick, who got it from Parcells. Saban then took it to college and perfected it. Kirby then took it from Saban and seems to have built an even better version of it going into 2023. Now, it takes a special someone to be able to do that. Many others have tried it and failed, like, for example, Will Muschamp or Jeremy Pruitt. But Kirby has found the secret sauce. Now, Smart also knew that only a few places would have the potential to build the best version of this, and also the willingness to give him unlimited power to construct it. Georgia, to me, is the most dangerous program in the country because they have everything in place to build the machine and operate it at the highest level. You're in the SEC. Your state per capita is one of, if not the best in the country to recruit, and that's for all three major sports. People love football in the state of Georgia as much as anywhere else in the country, and there is no other power in the state to rival the Dogs like it's, say, Auburn to an Alabama. Sorry, Georgia Tech, it's just the truth. Now, it took a little time for the structure to get built and put everything into place, but now we can step back and watch the machine work. Georgia inhales great high school players into that machine and spits out NFL players at an incredible rate. The main job Kirby Smart has now is to be able to make sure there's no kinks in the machine and to be able to adjust it as the game changes. Hit it with a little bit of that WD-40. Now, this isn't a Tesla versus Edison match where we have opposing ideas that are clashing. This is more like Edison's son finding a better way to make a light bulb. And in both cases, the finished product is shining before our very eyes. Now, Georgia's here to stay. And if you think this 2-year run was the pinnacle, you are setting yourself up for a massive disappointment because the Mega Ranger doesn't seem to be slowing down anytime soon. I'm going to bring in my co-host, former Michigan quarterback David Cohn, former Western State Colorado wide receiver Blaine Crane. Guys, we can sit here and throw praise from all different angles on what Kirby has done, but he has taken the formula to a place that has that potential, as I mentioned, one of those golden egg institutions, as I called them, and he has built the best version of this machine. In my opinion.
Well, what's impressed me most over the past year is Kirby Smart's refusal to be complacent. You know, even after that first championship, I think Kirby Smart's greatness will ultimately be determined by how obsessed he is. You know, that's really what it is to me. Yeah, guys can jump as high as Michael Jordan and hit golf balls as far as Tiger Woods, but it's the obsession for those guys, and like Tom Brady, you know, Bill Belichick, and then like you were talking about Nick Saban, they're just obsessed to be the greatest. So will Kirby Smart have that same obsession? A lot of guys have moments, you know, I mean, Larry Coker had a moment at Miami and had a great dynasty there. Pete Carroll at USC, you know, even Ed Orgeron had one of the greatest teams we've seen in LSU, but they just weren't obsessed in the long term in greatness. And Kirby Smart is the perfect coach at a perfect spot. Like you were talking about, Georgia is just prime recruiting grounds. That's my home state. And he just won back-to-back national championships with a walk-on quarterback. So he continues to not only get, you know, the #1 player in important positions like the quarterback position, but down the line, this is what we were talking about with Rusty Manziel. It seems like he's just stacking recruit on recruit on recruit. And as far as the #1 quarterback recruit here in Dylan Raiola, Georgia getting the #1 guy is nothing new. I mean, even my year coming out, they had Matt Stafford coming in.
He's pretty good.
Yeah, he's pretty good. Super Bowl champ now. But it's been Kirby Smart's ability to just just get all of these guys together and basically tell them, you haven't won anything yet.
Yeah.
You're not good enough yet. And so let's see if it continues as we move forward.
Yeah, and Blaine, you know, Georgia's always had talent, and Mark Richt did a great job. I mean, they've had guys in the past that have done, you know, good jobs there. They won the national championship with Herschel Walker in 1980. But it's taken somebody like Kirby Smart. And when I talk about the machine, you know, I'm talking about roster structure. I'm talking about the pillars of a great program, recruiting, culture, development, putting guys in a situation where you know structurally and strategically where they're at, what they're doing, and it's all progressing toward winning. There's a reason for everything, and it's hard to maintain that, but it seems that Kirby, like Thanos, has found the, you know, bracelet, whatever, in all 5 Infinity Stones, and now he's just put it together, and now he can just let Frankenstein walk out into the village and start ripping villagers' arms and legs off. It's grilling season, all right? It was about 90 degrees yesterday. I can feel summer, all right? And if you're wondering, hey, where do I get the best meat from? Guess what? I've got the perfect machine for you. That's our friends over at GoodRanchers.com. And if you use our code BOOSTER, you can get $30 off any box. And they're giving away free bacon for a year, which is probably the most American thing since Paul Revere went and warned everybody that the British was coming. All right? I'm not sure what your favorite steak is, but the one I get, mine's a New York strip, okay? I get the butcher's box, which is basically like a farm delivered to my house. It has chicken. It has, flank steak. It's got everything, all natural burgers, strips, like I mentioned, ribeyes. It's fantastic. And Good Ranchers is committed to giving you inflation-proof meat that you can count on. The price doesn't blow up and the meat doesn't either. And right now, they're offering a price lock guarantee for the next 2 years. Imagine if you could have locked in your price 2 years ago. You'd be saving hundreds of dollars, and we all know why. So gear up for an unforgettable summer of barbecues, of delicious food, great company, and the perfect ambiance with our friends over at Good Ranchers. Head to GoodRanchers.com. Use our code BOOSTER, BOOSTER, for $30 off any box. And send it to us. Tell us what box you got. We want to find out. Delicious American meat and $30 off your order with free bacon for a year. That's promo code BOOSTER at GoodRanchers.com. GoodRanchers.com. American meat delivered. You're welcome.
Yeah, I know. That'd be a sight to see for sure.
Seen Jordan Davis?
Yeah, well, yeah. I know you've seen the entire Eagles defense. But the thing with me is this, is like, you know, Kirby was the closest one to Nick, right? He saw how Nick put together the machine, right? He's basically the Anakin to the Obi-Wan, but they're starting to realize that actually Kirby's starting to get the high ground. All right, so it's going to be a little bit different situation. But it goes back to what you said. Kirby knows the percentages and the ingredients you have to have a great program. I think 60% of it's recruiting.
Oh, maybe more.
Maybe more. It's 65 to 70%, and then culture, then development, and Kirby knows how to do that. This isn't going anywhere. I don't know if he'll eclipse what Saban has done, because you had guys who've fallen off, who had a great year, great 2 years, and then the process ends. But I do think Kirby's that obsessed because he was that close to Saban. He saw the obsession, right, and fell in love with the obsession. And it's you're not working if you're in love with what you're doing. And Kirby, let's be honest here, guys. They're supposed to win 7 games last year, right? Had an entire roster believe, right? He's the puppet master. Right, he's getting to that stage where he's pulling all the strings, doesn't matter what it is. Like, he's probably having the janitor say, like, he's the next Nick Saban right now in college football.
Yeah. I want to give Kirby credit, because it's not like Nick Saban called Kirby Smart in his office one day and was like, hey, listen, I've got something to show you, but you can't tell anybody else. Jeremy Pruitt had it, wasn't able to do it. Will Muschamp had it, wasn't able to do it. Jimbo won a natty at Florida State, but seems to have kind of, fallen off here lately at A&M. We'll see how he finishes up. There's been a lot of guys who we felt like is kind of next up from Nick Saban. Hell, look at his coaching tree. It's like the Amazon. But it takes a certain individual, and I think it's because you have to be somewhat of a people person. I think Kirby Smart shares that same type of DNA strand with Nick Saban, as I can be a hard ass, I can get after you, I can be a disciplinarian, but I have enough people skills and genuine interest in you as a person to make you want to do those things for not only yourself and your family, not only the program, but for me as well. I think that may be the special ingredient. You can set things up. You can print out schedules identical to the ones that Nick Saban had with those resources, but it's the ability to connect with recruits and connect with people that I think makes the difference. And it's hard to go from a coordinator to a head coach. We see a lot of guys struggle, whether they're genius offensive coordinators or defensive coordinators, then all of a sudden they go to the head coaching position and they look lost and aloof. It is a totally different job. It is like being the Secretary of State one year and the president the next. You are asked to do many different things and your plate is much heavier and you can't focus in on what you're best at. You have to become your best at every single aspect. I think that's the difference with Kirby.
And you need multiple influences as well. You're talking about Jimbo Fisher. He coached under Bobby Bowden. I'm sure that helped too. So these guys have coached for a lot of different coaches. And then you need to also know which things you want to implement and which things you don't want to implement. Like the moment Kirby Smart became the head coach at Georgia, he knew, hey, I'm going to take this certain percentage of things that I've seen that worked really well when I was the defensive coordinator at Alabama. But here's another certain percentage that someone else did that I like, or I have some original thoughts of my own that I would like to try, and then see what works, and it's trial and error once you get into a program when it comes to roster management and things like that. Because 1 through 85 at Georgia right now is where he seems to be dominating.
Yeah, the depth is incredible. And you bring up a great point. It's one thing to mimic someone. It's another thing to be influenced by someone. And just because there's a lot of things that are similar structurally in the machine, you do have to have your own, a little bit of flavor to it. You can't just go out there and mimic somebody because that's not you truly being genuine. And I think, again, that is the key.
Maybe that's what we saw with Will Muschamp. I'm not exactly sure.
I think it is, David. I think it is.
I think maybe they tried to just mimic exactly what they saw instead of, saying, that's a good influence. I'm going to log that thing that I saw there away for later.
What do you think
I'm going to
Kirby
try
Smart's
this.
doing different?
What do you mean than those other two guys?
What is he doing different from Saban? You said he's coming in with his own kind.
I think he's a different person.
Sauce, his own spice.
That's what I think he's like literally obsessed with greatness to the point where, like, even in that game, the Sugar Bowl last season, when you saw him going down and calling a timeout because he didn't like the way that his punt block was lined up, right? It's not the special teams coordinator. He's running down there and calling that timeout, which ended up winning that game for them because the Buckeyes faked a punt on that. That's why this guy is just coming off a national championship. He could just be over there and just be a figurehead. And then when they get the first down, yell at the special teams coordinator. How many times have we seen a guy do that? He's down there upset, ripping off the headset, calling the timeout because he noticed it. He saw it. That ended up winning that game for them, which then they didn't go blow out TCU.
Yeah, it's
one small example.
Yeah, I think you're right. To answer your question, I think it is a lot of it's in recruiting and how you go recruit players. Again, I have worked for different coaches who worked under other coaches. You have a plan. All right, hey, I like the way that this head coach I work for structured practice. We did inside here. We did 7-on-7 here. I like the way that it flowed. There may be a little bit that you change. There may be a little bit of pre-practice stuff that you change. I think a lot of that is similar. Obviously, you want to go recruit the best players. You have a scheme and an identity. I mean, Kirby Smart's running Nick Saban's defense, basically. I mean, it's not the exact same, but it's the ability. You can't go in there and just say, oh, I remember Nick Saban said this to recruit, so I'm going to act exactly like Nick Saban. That doesn't work. I think where Kirby has had success and where he's different is that he can recruit at the same level that Nick can by being himself. That's the difference. Structurally, it's probably damn near identical with the way that it's formatted and the way that they go through spring and what they do in the summer and what coaches are on the road and how they handle it. But when it comes down to going in that room, or when it comes down to talking to your own players, or when it comes down to giving the pregame speech, I think that is the difference in Kirby, is the ability to connect with people in his own way while using the best structure that we've seen in college football that Saban got from Bill Belichick and brought it to college, that Bill Belichick got from Bill Parcells, and I'm sure Bill Parcells got from somebody before that, because that's how it works. Hey, YouTube, appreciate you checking us out. If you don't know, we do a weekday morning show talking everything sports, interacting with live calls, a live chat. It's a ton of fun. It's from 7:30 a.m. to 9 a.m. Eastern. Come check it out. If you like the way that sports used to be covered, I'm sure you'll love it.